What's up, everybody? I'm a little bit on tilt. You're going to have to ignore me. Longhorns win 38-6 in the final game against Baylor, probably forever. Have some of that, Baylor. I'm Jeff Ketchum. That's Jason Sukamel. This postgame show on Orangebloods Live, brought to you by Adam Loewy and the Loewy Law Firm. I know he's enjoying the game tonight. Longhorns pretty much pulverized Baylor. This thing was over early at 14-3 when Quinn Ewers strolled into the end zone. This game was over at that moment. Do us a solid, like the video, subscribe to the channel, get notifications, all of those things. Again, Longhorns fairly dominant. The final score probably doesn't reflect just how dominant it was. Longhorns go to 4-0, 1-0 in conference play. And it can't be stressed enough, Jason. They don't ever have to go back to Waco again for anything football related. So it's a nice performance. It's a big boy performance for the Longhorns. They handled their business. And ultimately, this was never really a game.
Yeah, you said it was over when Quinn scored. I put in my notes, I said, I'm calling time of death for Baylor. 6:09 in the first quarter. It was 0-0 at that point, but it was pretty clear. I mean, Texas was dominating Baylor at the line of scrimmage. It's pretty clear that Baylor wasn't going to be able to keep up with Texas over the long haul. 38-6, you said it. I mean, it felt like it was a bigger margin of victory than that even. I mean, and Texas just controlled this game. Quinn Ewers was fantastic. The ground game was good. I mean, the only nitpick you can really make is a couple special teams blunders. You get a couple muff punts. You get a 26-yarder that doinks off the uprights. But, offensively, Texas dominated. Defensively, Longhorns just took total control of this game early on, kept them out of the end zone there at the end. I mean, everything you wanted. I mean, Texas finishes with 503 yards, 328 passing yards. Even Xavier Worthy gets on the act on that double pass. Sark loves that call, man, that double pass. And, hey, why not? It seems to work when he does it. Jonathan Brooks goes over 100 yards. C.J. Baxter gets in the end zone. J.T. Sanders has a huge game. I thought the defensive line was really good. I thought the linebacker play was fantastic. So great way to start off conference play for Texas. Like you said, they never have to go back to Waco again. I thought, I did my matchups on Friday or Thursday, I guess. I had Texas controlling the matchups, but I kind of thought this game might be a little closer, a little sloppier. You know what? I thought it might be a little closer and a little sloppier than even the matchups indicated. But, I mean, Texas did almost everything right in this game. And I said after last week, I was like, I'm not sure Texas is playing like the number 3 ranked team in the country. Well, this tonight looked like the number 3 or better ranked team in the country. So just an impressive win for Texas overall. Get in and out of Waco, get home, and don't have to go back there anytime soon.
Yeah, I mean, Baylor's a bad football team playing with its second-string quarterback. The recipe for tonight, forget about all the clutter of the final game of the rivalry and all of that, against a team that really shouldn't be in a competitive game with you in the fourth quarter, unlike what we saw a weekend ago against Wyoming. Handle your business, play big boy football, take their will really early in the game. And that's what Texas did. I think there's a couple of things you can nitpick in this game. You mentioned the drop 2 fumbles on special teams. I mean, that will drive Sarkisian crazy.
One on a fair catch. No, I mean, you can't have that happen anytime, but certainly not on a fair catch.
No drop passes tonight at all.
Baylor had
0. But 2 of your receivers dropped punt returns. I love that they took Xavier Worthy out of the punt return game, put Jordan Whittington in, presumably for safety reasons, and then he drops one too. I think you'd nitpick the defense a little bit and say, against that Baylor offense, you would have liked to have turned them over at least once.
Well, hey, Ryan Watts gave up about 100 of Robertson's 203 passing yards. So, by the way, it cost me Ryan Watts. Thanks, cost me like $700 in prize picks wins, dude, because I had Sawyer Robertson on the list.
Oh my God, that guy breaking his number late in the game. Oh. Hell, that's why kids, you don't gamble.
That's right. Even though we love it, don't do
We
it.
love it, and I'm still doing it before like tonight. Like I'm still watching. But if you needed an example for like the dangers of it all, Sawyer Robertson breaking 200 yards passing tonight. How that happened, I don't know. I have an answer for this, Jason, but I want to throw it your way. The story of tonight's game, inside the story of tonight's game, is what? By the way, guys, get your super chat in. Matter of fact, Jake, you just got a super chat in. Let me make sure we take care of you because I want everybody to feel like they can get their super chats in early. Is it me or does it feel like Sark is holding back on the play calling some, not complaining, but just feels like the offense was held back some, maybe because he didn't have to go all out by Jake Hall. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, we kind of knew coming in Baylor was going to try to take away the deep ball, right? And they did a good job of that, but Sark found a way to get it involved a couple ways. The double pass for one.
Oh, you know what, Jay? You're right. I forgot. Jalen Ford had his 8th interception in 11 games. So shame on me. They did turn Baylor over. So now we're just left to nitpick the defense, the 2 turnovers on special teams. The fact that the offense didn't punch it into the end zone when it got down to the 3-yard line and not much else. Yes, I know. I even feel bad, Tom, that you super chatted my correction because someone else had already done that and I had acknowledged that, but I'm not going to give your $5 back.
Hey, but going back to the original super chat, we kind of knew that was Baylor by design, right? They were going to try to keep everything in front of them. We thought Texas might work the middle of the field underneath. Sark still found a way to kind of get the downfield passing game going with the double pass. They took a couple other shots downfield, down the middle of the field, especially JT Sanders obviously gets a big gainer. So I didn't feel like he was really holding back necessarily. And once that game kind of broke open, he probably did hold back at that point. The post or the commenter was probably correct on that. But I didn't think that I didn't watch this game find myself thinking that Sark was just having a very vanilla or conservative game plan. I think it just kind of, as he always says, every game takes on a life of its own. And once they kind of got up early, they didn't need to test Baylor downfield too much. So, I'm
with you, Jason. I didn't feel like anything was being held back. I thought they did kind of what they wanted to offensively. They were balanced. Quinn Ewers, it was a real game managing performance. And yet at the end of the game, and I don't mean that like in a negative way, because he was really, really good, but it wasn't a lot of sexy throws. A lot of it was get the ball to your playmakers, let them make plays. The throw to Ja'Tavion Sanders down the seam in the second half where he makes the one-handed catch was a thing of beauty. I thought Ewers gets an A tonight, but it wasn't like the Alabama performance where it just felt like, oh my God, this was his moment. I thought it was a controlled performance, and I never once thought that Texas was holding back. I just don't know that they needed to be anything other than what they did tonight. This game should have finished in the 40s. A little bit of execution kept them away from that. A missed field goal keeps them away from that. It is, it's probably not an A+ performance, but I'll give them at least an A-, maybe even an A. Oscar says, inebriated. Well done, Oscar. But does it feel good to not feel so dependent on the deep ball today? Well, I hadn't really thought about it like that. They did hit on a deep ball. It was Xavier Worthy throwing it to Ja'Tavion Sanders. Yeah, sure. I mean, I think what felt good was that Texas was really good and they were complete on offense, Jason. It felt like they could run it when they wanted to. It felt like Ewers could have had 400 yards if that's what they wanted to do today. And Texas kind of did what it wanted to on offense.
Yeah, Baylor came into this game with a really poor run defense. And Texas added to that rushing. I'm looking 175 yards, 5.1 yards per carry. Quinn Ewers even gets a 29-yard career-long run for a touchdown. Ewers threw for almost 300 yards. He didn't have the big highlight plays. He had the one touchdown pass to Xavier Worthy. You throw in Xavier Worthy's totals. Texas threw for 328 yards. I mean, Ewers had a 199.6 passer rating catch. If you're
The only thing he was missing all night long was a touchdown pass.
Yeah,
and he finally got that to Worthy, and it jacked that bad boy up. And yeah, it was a really good bounce back performance for you.
I think this is one of exact bounce back performances. Is exactly right, because I was pretty hard on him after last week's game. I didn't think he played well at all. People say drops this or the other. I was like, no, I didn't see it that way. I just didn't think Quinn was on last week. But what he did tonight, I think, was one of his best games we've seen him play as a starter for the entirety of it. I don't really have any quibbles with anything on the offense, man. The JT Sanders, we knew he'd probably have a bounce back game. I think we talked about that on our Prize Picks predictions thing. After getting shut out last week, he obviously comes back. That catch down the middle, man, first off, that was a great ball from Quinn Ewers. Okay, so let's not lose sight of that. But that catch he makes, his hands are like marshmallows, man. I swear they're so soft that ball just so gently lands in his hands, and it's just a beautiful catch and run. But excuse me, they ran the ball effectively. I thought Quinn Ewers was fantastic. The receivers are kind of spread around, so the offensive line was pretty good, I think, for the most part. So just a very good performance overall. If Texas plays like this, I know, each week's different, right? But if they play this level of game, and Baylor's not a good football team, I get it, but I don't see any team on the schedule beating Texas if they play at the level they played on tonight.
I think it's hard to tell because it was Baylor. I don't disagree with you. I know next week they play a real quarterback in Jalen Daniels.
That game scares me a little bit if you're Texas, right? First off, we've seen what Kansas can do, right? Jalen Daniels, he's the type, if Texas doesn't play their game, Jalen Daniels can lead his team to a victory. They beat a good BYU team tonight, and I think they beat them by a couple scores, beat them fairly soundly, I think. So, I said that, hey, they're going to face a much better opponent next week, Texas. They can't come into this thing all high and mighty and cocky because they just knocked off a pretty bad Baylor team, because Kansas is pretty tricky, man, with Jalen Daniels is on his game.
A couple of super chats real quick, and then I wanted to go into a point that I wanted to make about what I think is one of the big stories from tonight's game. Jake Hall says, probably feels like that because we're talking about the deep balls. Probably feels like that because we didn't have the bomb throws like that against Bama. Solid game all around, though, except for the muff punts. I think it was better than solid. I'm way more with you, Jason, than I am with it was solid. This was an A performance for Texas. If you take the punts out, you're left with a defense that was dominant and an offense that did what it wanted to do. This could have easily have been a 50-something to something kind of 52-6 kind of game. The score flatters Baylor a little bit.
They more than doubled the Vegas spread. If that's not playing good football, what is? They were.
It was a really good performance. That Texas can be better is actually, I think Sark will like this. He can coach this team hard this week and say, we weren't perfect. We left plays on the field. You can't do that against this Kansas offense. You got to be a little bit better. Kansas stopped the run game of BYU. It was insignificant. I think BYU finished with 9 yards today, which I know some of that probably comes down to sacks, but my goodness. Tom says in the super chat, can we now stop all of the talk about Quinn Ewers and the 3-3-5? Honestly, Tom, no, because Baylor didn't really run any 3-3-5 tonight. They almost exclusively ran their 4-man fronts. So, that story will pop up again before this season is over with. Tonight wasn't a night about the 3-3-5. Everybody wondered because it's not Baylor's base defense, but they do a little bit of it. They can go to it if they want to. I can't believe that they didn't go to this.
I was about to say I was shocked by it too. We just kind of assumed they would, right? Because it seems to work when everybody else does it. But
instead, they lined up in their base and got pulverized. I was absolutely mystified that Baylor didn't do more of what Wyoming. Look, the game plan for Wyoming and Baylor kind of exactly the same. You're coming in with the backup quarterback. You just want this thing to turn into just a slush of a game. You want to get 7 minutes to go in the game, and you want to do what Wyoming almost pulled off. 10-10, 13-13, something like that. Get to 7 minutes and then see what happens. So that Aranda did what he kind of always does, considering how bad that defense is. And maybe he felt like, look, we're not even good at what we do from a base defense standpoint. We can't go doing something new just because Wyoming did it. Okay, but you got hammered tonight, and I don't know why you wouldn't try to do the one thing that 8 games worth of evidence suggests. Maybe you throw it out towards Texas a little bit. But no, we can't, Tom. I wish we could, but not so much, because Baylor didn't play that kind of game. C'est la vie. That's the way it goes sometimes.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see a lot more of that defense in the future and have a better idea of how Quinn handles it. But, listen, like we talked about it all week. What was his prize picks number? Like 260 or something like that?
Yeah.
And we were convinced he'd probably go less than that. And he busted it with 293. So, didn't quite go to exactly. Didn't quite go to script, but I had some bad beats on prize picks today, including the one that I lost by 1/2 yard.
That's when just turn it off.
I should have, but
just turn it off. A couple of notes, but yeah, my prize picks, all of my prize picks, like everything I did today, just awful. I kind of had a Sucamel. I could have gotten paid for all of my misses if I could just flipped it around and been like, I'm going to get it wrong 6 times. There we go. Here's my story of the game, Jason. I think Jonathan Brooks, quietly we start talking about like what happened tonight that really matters. By the way, Kansas State just scored on a Will Howard touchdown run. They're going to end up blowing Central Florida out. It is now 43-24 pending an extra point late in the fourth quarter. A big bounce back win for Kansas State. That might get them back into the land of the rankings. I don't even know that they deserve to fall out of the rankings after the loss last weekend, but good performance for them. So Jonathan Brooks, by the way, Anwar Richardson is in Waco, will probably join us earlier tonight than normal. So hang in there. I would guess next 15, 20 minutes or so, we'll see Anwar instead of maybe 45 minutes to an hour. Then maybe we'll see 35 minutes. We'll see. So CJ Baxter's back in action. And we know that Jonathan Brooks had the 100-yard performance a week ago. So with Baxter back in the lineup 5 days ago, Steve Sarkisian referred to CJ Baxter as his lead back and was like, well, it's an opportunity for Jonathan Brooks to showcase himself a little bit and get an opportunity and take advantage of it, given that CJ Baxter is the lead back. Well, tonight, by the midway point of the third quarter, he had 13 carries. Baxter had 4. I need to look and see what it finished with. I know Brooks had 18.
6 for Baxter.
So no matter the framing of the game, no matter how you look at it, he was getting 3-1 on rushing attempts versus Baxter in this game. It's a second consecutive 100-yard game on top of a 2-touchdown game rushing the ball, and just a really solid performance running in the run game. He makes that one-handed catch. So ironic that part of Brooks' season has been
a couple drops,
remembered mostly for those drops.
Mm-hmm.
And tonight he catches a ball that's 10 times harder to make. He didn't catch it one-handed. He jumped up, kind of swooped the ball in one-handed, but then was able to cradle it in with his opposite hand and then
keeps his balance.
What's that?
And then keeps his balance.
Yeah.
Basically stumbles for, I think it was an 18-yard gain or something.
It was. And so in the end, he ran the ball well. He caught the ball well. He made no mistakes, no fumbles, no drop passes. I need to throw this out there again. No drop passes tonight for the Texas receivers. It was a much discussed topic all week long. I've been telling people, I get it. The numbers are what the numbers are. Texas has I think the 9th most drops in college football coming into tonight, but only 4 officially by their 4 primary wide receivers, including Jatavion Sanders, none tonight. But I thought Brooks was really good. And I wonder now, Oklahoma is 2 weeks away. And you got Kansas undefeated coming to town next week. I wonder if, at least for the little while, this puts Jonathan Brooks in a position to be the lead back in a way that Sarkisian, quite frankly, was describing CJ Baxter just on Monday. Jason, it's really hard to deny that Brooks is on a roll. He's got some momentum. This is 2 weeks in a row. And you got to ride the hot hand if you're Sarkisian. And he did tonight. He didn't press it with Baxter. Baxter got 6 carries. Brooks was the guy, and Brooks delivered.
Yeah, and Baxter had 2 catches of his own. Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I mean, what more does Brooks have to show you, to show that he can be the lead back or should be the lead back? I mean, we don't know CJ Baxter if he's playing at 70%, 80%. He was still didn't look quite fully himself. It's kind of weird that he took himself out after that first touch, but then he came right back in and ended up getting 7 more touches. So I don't know what was going on there when he first took himself out after that first play. I think it was actually a reception that first play, but yeah, I thought, okay, is he out for the game again all of a sudden? So Brooks, I think, has done everything well. I saw a couple plays catching. These are things, you look at more when you go back and rewatch it. But he actually did a good job, too, on blitz pickup, and his blocking was sound the couple of times I saw it. Brooks is funny. Like I wrote in my post-game thoughts, I said, I'll just read it. It said, Brooks is just a slippery runner, not in a way that he's going to break a lot of ankles with Barry Sanders-like moves, but tacklers just seem to kind of slide off of him if they're not able to square him up head on. He's a much stronger runner in his lower half than people realize. And listen, that 40-yard touchdown run, man, he showed some good juice to get that edge. Those guys had angles on him. They couldn't get to him. So, people seem to question his speed sometimes and his explosiveness, but he sure showed enough speed on that play. And I don't know what it is, man, but guys, when they don't square him up and they try to tackle him kind of from the side, guys just kind of slide off of him, and he's able to pick up a lot of extra yardage after contact. I think he's got really good vision. I've been a big Jonathan Brooks fan, really going back to his high school days. So I'd like to say that I'm not totally surprised. This guy was ultra productive in high school. Yes, at a small school level, but the production was insane. But yeah, I'm with you, man. I would assume Jonathan Brooks gets to start next week, even if CJ Baxter is fully healthy. And if he backs it up again next week, man, like you say, you just keep riding the hot hand. That makes me think he'd probably be the starter against Oklahoma. I mean, if CJ Baxter comes in one of these games and just has a tremendous games and looks like the explosive playmaker we all know that he can be, and he looks different than Jonathan Brooks, maybe they bounce it back and forth from week to week. But right now, it sure feels like it should be Jonathan Brooks' job to lose at this point.
A couple of other just random thoughts, and then Jason, I'm curious. We'll take any other super chats that are out there. By the way, I saw a question, and someone asked about the number of sacks. Bobby Hansen asked how many sacks tonight. Texas got 5, 2 from Murphy, 1 from Finkley, 1 from Bush, and another one from Vernon Broughton. That's who finished with the 5th sack. And I thought Michael Taft should have had a sack in the first quarter. There was a play where the Baylor quarterback scrambling around. He got close to the line of scrimmage. Taft stops him behind the line of scrimmage. At least he stopped him behind that line that the TV puts up that is supposed to designate the line of scrimmage. So it'll be curious to see if the Texas coaches go back and officially give him credit for a sack. I thought there should have been 6. To be fair, Michael Taft coming up in support from coverage and tackling him near the line of scrimmage isn't like a major sack, but based on the rules, it was a pass play. He scrambled. They stopped him short of the line of scrimmage. Thought it should have been a sack. Okay.
8 tackles for loss, catch, 4 quarterback hurries. Baylor didn't have a single quarterback hurry. They did have 3 sacks. And Bobby Hansen had to do a double take when he said that. That's my
I knew you were. Yeah.
My best friend's name. I was like, what? he spells his name with an O, and my friend Bobby Hansen is an Aggie. So I was like, what the hell's Bob doing sending questions in for this game?
I wondered. I was not only did I wonder, but I thought, why is Bobby asking random like sack questions? Like,
unless he's misspelled his own name, that's a different Bobby Hansen.
Well, it's late. It's after 10 o'clock on a Saturday. We might all be misspelling our names at this point. Okay, so here's a couple of things that I think are interesting, Jason, about this game. And I don't mean beyond Jalen Ford was great. Byron Murphy was great. Jatavion Sanders was great. Like, there were legitimately Anthony Hill in the second half was great.
Yeah.
But from 30,000 feet up, here are two things that I think are not insignificant. Number one, Texas played to its standard or close to its standard and not down to Baylor's standard. And this is a program. Look, they didn't do that a week ago.
Right.
So, you know, and you could argue they didn't do that fully against Rice. I mean, at halftime of the Rice game, people were kind of on tilt a little bit about, you guys hyped up this team and how good is it supposed to be? And this team sucks. And they played a higher standard tonight on the road and didn't allow themselves to get within 100-foot pole of a game. This was about getting numbers and running out the clock. And so Texas played to a standard tonight. And I think that is an important step for Texas to take as a team. Number two, don't look now, but Texas has a 4-game winning streak on the road under Steve Sarkisian. And they started 3-6 or something like ugly. I don't even remember exactly what the stat was, but it was a very little to a whole lot more the wrong way. And now they won the 2 Kansas games at the end of last season when the discussion was a real talking point. They beat Bama. And now they beat Baylor tonight. That isn't insignificant that they are winning and maybe, look, not even maybe, their best 2 performances of the season so far have come in true road games. And that's not what we would have said about Sarkisian's teams at any point in each of his first 2 seasons. But, you know, if they continue that this season, then it really does eliminate some games where you think maybe that's where the slip up is. If they're going to play their best ball on the road, this very well may be a team that runs the regular season undefeated.
Yeah, and JD, to answer your question, no, that's not Henny and Coke. It's actually diet iced tea. But I do have some Coors Light in the fridge. I seriously thought about bringing a cooler up and just setting it on my desk and having a beer while we talk. Listen, before the season started, Catch, I said I predicted this team to go 10-2. I predicted them to lose to Alabama. And I just said, I think there's going to be one other game they're going to stumble in. I don't really know where it is. I had a hard time picking which one it would be, but I just assumed it would probably be a road game. I think I ended up picking them to lose to TCU on the road. So to your point, yeah, they're playing better on the road than they're playing at home. And it's kind of a beautiful thing, right? Especially in this last season in the Big 12. Like, if there's ever a season you want to have, your best road season, what better time when you're having to go to places like Waco for the last time ever. So, that's a sign of a good team, man, to go on the road against a Baylor team that you knew was outmatched, but you thought would probably come out swinging and put their best foot forward, knowing this was their last time. Listen, Baylor and every other team Texas plays from here on out would love nothing more than to be the one to knock Texas off, knock them potentially out of a national championship run or something like that. So I think that's a sign of a really good team, that they're able to play good ball on the road, stay focused, have that us against the world mentality. If there's ever a year they're going to need that us against the world mentality, I mean, Texas almost always needs that, right? Probably more than most universities. I mean, Texas is hated. They're like the Dallas Cowboys. You either like the Cowboys or you hate the Cowboys. I mean, the New York Yankees. I mean, the Texas Longhorns. So they always have to have that mentality to some degree, but probably this year more than ever. And we're 2 games in, and like you said, they played their best 2 performances on the road. So that bodes well for this team, I think, moving forward through the rest of the schedule.
We've got Anwar Richardson live in Waco. We'll go to him in just a second. He beat the 30-minute mark tonight. We have a new standard for how quickly Anwar. When it's a road game.
I'm showing Sark is still talking. How is that? Is this like on tape delay or something? Maybe
it has to be because I see Anwar Richardson looking dapper. I just wanted to get to Jay's super chat real quick because once Anwar goes in, we're going to forget about you, Jay. No offense. Most impressive teams this season, in your opinion? Jay, I mean, Texas, kind of the obvious, Jason. I don't have a super smart answer. Texas,
USC, although USC's tied right now. No, I'm sorry, they're 14-7. Washington's up 24. Washington's been incredible. Michigan's looked good, but they struggled a little bit today for a while. That game was, I think they were down 7-0. It was 14-7 at half. They ended up blowing it open.
Ohio State gets, even though they win that game ugly, they win on the road at Notre Dame. That's not insignificant. I don't think they've been the most impressive team.
I don't either.
But that's a great win on their resume.
It is, but I'm not convinced that their quarterback situation is going to be good enough to carry them through the season undefeated. I mean, listen, that Pac-12 is good, man. Oregon looks good. Washington looks good. USC still playing tonight. We'll see what happens there, but they've looked really good. So
nobody's been more impressive than Texas. That's not to say that Texas has been the best team in the country or is the best team in the country, but I can't say anybody's been more impressive.
Maybe Washington, if I'm picking one, but Washington doesn't have that signature win like Texas did going on the road.
They're just destroying. They're up 24-6 early second quarter against Cal.
I mean, I'm just like they've outscored their opponents, just rough math, 150 to 36 through 3 games. So, so they're in Michigan State, Tulsa, Boise State, not a bad team. So, I mean, they're not playing complete cupcakes, but that's a really good Washington team. But, we'll see what they're made of when they get in the conference play.
All right. Bringing him in. I hated to make him wait, but Jay, we got your $2 super chat answered. We had to stop the show for the $2. Anwar Richardson and Dallas Cowboys Royal Blue joining us here. I like that suit, Anwar. That is a beautiful looking suit. You are live in Waco. Give us some scoop. Tell us how happy Sark was after the game.
Well, by the way, I don't know what you're seeing, Jason, but it has to be on delay. So the great part about road games is that Sark is not dealing with recruits, and they got to get the hell out of here because they're on the schedule. So he as soon as they went in, he gave his speech and he was out. So I was like, okay,
I'm watching Anwar and Sark at the same time, so it's confusing. There's something called tape delay. Wait a second.
Jason, what would be weird is if you saw Anwar with Sark and Anwar there, and it's like, what the hell's going on? I see 2 different Anwars in 2 different places.
So I would say the thing that Sark was really happy about, and I think, Jason, you kind of touched on it as I was sitting there waiting, was, one of the questions that was kind of posed to him, and it was kind of like a business trip, a business workman-like trip for them, where he said one of the emphasis for them this week was don't get, too excited about, winning. Like, you still got to go back. You still got to focus in on a team like Baylor. He's like, hey, this is a team, that, 2 years ago we were 5-7 and lost here in Waco. So he's like, he wanted to make sure, like, hey, don't forget that, and don't take winning for granted at all. Don't think it's easy. Like, don't, all those kind of things. And so for them to come out and handle the business that the way that he did, I was happy about that. He used that word championship team back. It's been one of those things he doesn't shy away from. And he said, he told the guys that one of the signs of a championship team is one that gets better as they go along within the season. And he felt like today was a good example of that, of them getting better, basically playing well in about 2 phases of the game. That the special teams phases was a little bit of a frustration for him as he talked about that. He's like, those are guys who usually catch the ball. So it was very odd for them that thing not to happen. All the miscues on the special teams is something that he doesn't see. So that's something that they got to get back into. But outside of that, he was happy with the red zone. And what that looked like. He said Quinn was efficient with the ball, was very happy with the way they were able to run the ball. He felt good about getting off to a good start. That was something that we've talked about this past week. And then he felt good about them starting the game fast and, of course, not letting up when it was all said and done. So, I think overall, he was really happy about it. And I think the only other thing that he was happy about from an offensive standpoint that was kind of noteworthy, it stands out, is that he said one of his goals for coming into the season was if teams are going to focus in on Xavier and they're going to try to double him, that they're going to make him pay with Adonai Mitchell and Jatavian Sanders. And he feels like that thing is coming to, fruition, for lack of better terms, because when Baylor decided to focus in on those guys, Jatavian Sanders gets that 100-yard game, another one of those from him. Adonai Mitchell, has a good game as well. So he feels really good that the thing that they kind of implemented before the season was doing well. And of course, he liked the QB pressure and what they were able to do throughout the game. So overall, that am I having a connection issue?
Okay.
You're back now. You're good.
You're fine.
Am I having a connection issue here, guys?
You're good.
Well,
Might
we
be.
keep telling you no. So if you can't hear us,
Oh, well, it keeps saying on my end I do. So that
Well, no,
ends up
you-
being
you
the
went
problem.
out for
So
like-
I'll keep talking. Saying on my
Continue.
end I have a connection issue.
Hey,
well, I got nothing but green bars for you on my end.
hey, someone asked early on, Catch, where was I swear I saw him on the game, but now I'm like, in my mind, I'm doubting myself. Jahdae Barron did not show up in the box score. He was out there, right?
23.
Yeah,
Felt like I saw him at one point.
so do I, but I don't see him in the box score. But yeah, just something we'll have to go back and check on. But I don't think they have a participation thing yet. Starters.
Looking for is participation. We'll update you on that. We got onward.
He started. He was listed as a starter. So
Yeah, no, I'm certain I saw him in a huddle actually.
yeah,
Where I remember seeing him.
Just weirdly didn't get in the box score. So I don't know if he played the whole game. That's something we'll have to go back and look at or ask about. So.
I'll go back to this again. I'm really surprised at the way Baylor approached the game defensively. I mean, you never just want to copy what somebody else is doing.
Why not?
But it worked to such an extent last week that not doing that tonight and getting your head kicked in. Dave Aranda was great 2 years ago. Boy, it seems like he's getting – I noticed online today, Jason, that there are a lot of – and look, there's no reason to talk about Baylor too much in this because we don't ever have to really concern ourselves with Baylor again. But considering they were the team that was played tonight, I thought there were some little things throughout the game that Aranda and his coaches didn't do well. But not playing any of the defense.
Surprising knowing that he's a defensive-minded coach, a highly respected defensive-minded coach, right? If anybody should be able to adjust away from their base defense comfortably, you'd think it'd be someone like Aranda, but yeah.
Give me some standout players for you while we wait for Anwar to come back, if he is able to come back. You can even take the obvious ones. I think there really were some players tonight that deserve like 5 minutes of flowers being tossed their way. I'll let you have the first go around in terms of who we want to give flowers to.
Well, you mentioned earlier, like kind of the game within the game, and you were wondering if Jonathan Brooks took command of that starting role. I mean, Brooks deserves his share of flowers, of course, but to me, what I was thinking before you started talking, my biggest takeaway was that Quinn Ewers had a tremendous game after a what I would consider a subpar game against Wyoming. We've seen that what he's capable of, and now he just needs to kind of be consistent, bottle up what he did today. I thought Quinn Ewers deserves a game ball. JT Sanders, obviously. Listen, Gunnar Helm was productive tonight with a couple catches. I Johnny Cook, as they called him on TV, got loose for that deep ball. So it was good to see John Tay. But, Brooks, Ewers, JT Sanders, defensively, I mean, you can go on and on. Jalen Ford, Benda was good. The defensive line, Murphy. I thought Tavondre Sweat played a good game. Didn't fill up the stat sheet, 4 tackles, but had a couple good plays in there. So, I thought Tavondre Sweat played well. I'm just looking at the stats. Barrett Sorrell had a real quiet game, didn't he? He had 1 quarterback hurry, but only 1 tackle. I thought the defensive front played pretty well. I thought Anthony Hill played well in the second half. Didn't see much of him in the first half, but just a really clean game aside from special teams. And listen, Xavier Worthy did have the big punt return. That was a nice play, but other than that, it was kind of a disaster on special teams. But if I'm kind of picking off the top of my head, I'm going Quinn, I'm going JT Sanders, I'm going Jonathan Brooks, I'm going Jalen Ford, and the interior of the defensive line.
If I'm going, let me give you my top 5 standouts in no order, because I would give all these guys A-pluses tonight. Quinn gets an A+. There wasn't a whole lot sexy about the performance other than he completed a shitload of passes. I mean, you want to talk about from an accuracy standpoint, 78% accuracy tonight is his high water mark for the season. He completed 75. His adjusted, including the drops in the Alabama game, his adjusted completion percentage was 75% against Alabama. Now, they didn't have any drops tonight, but he got that thing close to 80, and that's where Quinn needs to be. That's where the best quarterbacks in the country, that's where their numbers are, and he was a lot closer tonight. Really efficient, 18 of 23. He made a big play with his feet. I'm almost still stunned. The touchdown run. I thought he stepped out of bounds, not because I thought he stepped out of bounds, but because it just seemed like everybody stopped.
Yeah, first off, great blocking. JT Sanders deserves tip of the cap on that play. That was great blocking. But what was that Baylor defender doing? Number 6. I don't know his name, but that was a terrible angle. Yeah, I get it. Quinn's a sneaky athlete, probably more athletic than that guy thought, but you got to make that play if you're that Baylor defender and just get him out of bounds, man.
So Sanders, look, Sanders not only looked like a first-team All-America as a receiver tonight, that one-handed catch, chef's kiss perfect. But you mentioned the block on the Ewers. That's actually a really good block. I mean, he's running a route. That thing happened pretty quickly, right?
That's an easy one to get flagged on if you're not careful, right?
And instinctively, he's probably thinking run into a space as a receiver to give him a target in a real quick, snap kind of decision moment. It was a really good pin block that allowed them to do that. We're going to bring Anwar Richardson back in. By the way, Anwar, I don't know how long we've got you, right? So let me get in Money B wanting you to know, clean. What are y'all's thoughts on the defense? Sark has to be disappointed with the special team mishaps. Money B, we'll get to that in just a second. I wanted Anwar to be able to finish his opening piece.
Can I do the thing that every reporter does? So when a reporter decides that they don't like a stadium, it's usually because of the food, right? It's always something that is first world problems. Man, there hasn't been freaking AC in this damn press box the whole damn day, and I'm dressed like this crap. Man, I've been so freaking annoyed. I'm just gonna be honest with you, man. I've been halfway freaking falling asleep because it's feel like it's 80 degrees in there. It's been crazy, man. I don't know what's going on in there. And then of course, to make it just better, and I guess it's better, they opened up the windows, we just had 98 degrees just coming into the press box.
Oh my God, what the hell was up?
Yeah, you've been here. Have you been to this new one, the new one where the windows go all the windows in the press box go all the way up? Man, it's been hot as Hades in here, man. I actually just found
it was only 110 on the field, Anwar.
110?
110. It was 110 degrees.
Oh well, it was brutal. All right, I just want to get that out. And Catch, I do
Let's
feel
see
like
your armpits.
it's really bad.
Lift your arms up. Let us see.
Well, I just found AC. So I'm actually
You
getting
look
a little bit
good.
better. I just found AC. It was bad.
I don't
before.
see any sweat stains.
Del Conte was worse. Del Conte, after what I saw, he looked like he was sweating like a whore in church. Like, that's how bad Del Conte looked when I saw him. So, okay, the last thing I wanted to let's see if I can remember, because I don't know how much of what you guys heard, but of him basically being happy. It is. I think the last thing you may have heard was to Jatavian Sanders. Like, if you're going to double on Xavier, he wants to be able to have guys that can hurt you. And so he feels pretty good about, what he was able to build on that side of the ball. So overall, I think he was really happy that they were able to go on the road, have another good performance on the road. Kind of checks a lot of boxes for them with things that they've struggled in, on the road, throughout the past. Like that kind of is checking the box. The Bama game kind of checks the box for them. So what kind of ends up being impressive so far, Catch, is that, I feel it's like these are usually games where Texas just screws up and screws the pooch, for lack of better terms. Like, this would be that typical letdown game that we're used to seeing from Texas. And it was kind of been the opposite. It's like, oh, that's what good teams do. They go and beat a team like Baylor and beat them down and get the hell out of Dodge and head back home. Like, that's what you're seeing. Like, the things that kind of make you say, okay, this thing's there. So I think that's kind of some of the overall, I think, from Sark from today, or from tonight, and some of the things that he said. There was other things, but
did he give any injury updates, Omar?
No.
I saw Kelvin Banks limping, and people were asking about him, but no injury updates.
I saw Kelvin. I don't know about that. I saw Kelvin Banks after the game walking pretty normal, heading to the locker rooms. I didn't notice any limp, so I'm not quite sure about that one. He literally walked past me.
Anybody notice? So Jalen Catalon makes that great play coming downhill on third down and lights that dude up. And I don't remember him the rest of the game. And at one point in the third quarter, when Baylor had the ball inside the Texas 20-yard line, probably needs to be something for us to keep an eye on. Maybe it's nothing, but I don't remember him literally being on the field after that play's over. And when Texas still had all of its starters in the game in the third quarter, when trying to keep Baylor out of the end zone, when they got into the red zone, he definitely wasn't on the field. So I don't know. It was someone made a comment in the chat that they thought he had injured himself, and nobody.
Well, I thought that on that play for a second, because they flashed to him and he kind of and then I had to rewind it because I saw it out of the corner of my eye, but he was flexing, celebrating. At first I thought, is he wincing because he's hurt? But so if he got hurt, I don't know that it was on that play, because he was flexing, celebrating.
Okay, good. I mean, I just don't remember seeing him. If I look in the stat book, he finished with
2 tackles.
2 tackles. Okay.
That's it, yeah.
I mean, and Derek Williams came into the game early too. So I'm not trying to start a fire or anything. I just don't. Derek Williams played earlier in this game than he had in previous games. And I just don't remember seeing Catalon at all after that play, which was a fantastic
They did do a lot
play.
of rotating, though, on defense. We'll have to find out. We'll check into it. Maybe some Michael Taft playing a lot. Probably the most minutes I've ever seen him play in a game. So there was a lot of rotating. And even Sark mentioned that they were trying to do – the defensive guys were doing a lot of rotating on that side of the ball. But maybe there's something to it.
Anwar, you're beyond what Sark had to say. Your biggest takeaway from tonight is what?
So there's a couple. You said what?
The lack of AC.
Lack of AC. No, it's could you imagine if Alex had been here and had to cover this game and how he feels about Waco? Probably they would never let him in the stadium. That's just being quite honest. They would have denied his media request. Of course, it's interesting. I think I was the only I sat I sat by myself in the press box. I never say it's by myself, but you usually sit around like other people, like the visiting media. They put all the visiting media on like the second row, and like I was the only one from Austin, like in the front row by like a column, like by myself. So I don't know if they isolated me or not. Like I don't know if I don't believe there's any accidents in life, but that was interesting as I sat there all alone. I think that's probably a Jeff Ketchum, Alex Dunlap combination there. My biggest takeaways, catches. So they were able to do what they needed to do, go on the road, get a big, get a win. So, so that's kind of like the obvious thing, start 1-0 in the conference. And that's kind of the, obvious thing. I think they made an average quarterback look average. And I think that's what good teams do. They go out and they handle their business, and they made Baylor look pretty damn pedestrian, to be quite honest with you. And that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to coach. I think one big takeaway for me is that the most consistent aspect of this team has been this defense. That offense has been up and down at times. We saw special teams have an issue, several issues today. But this defense continues week in and week out just to be, go on the road and you hold a team to 6 points. Like that's pretty damn good. And we've seen them be pretty consistent. I thought at one point, Tavondre Sweat and Byron Murphy were just unblockable. I know when you use the term like, men among boys, they're just toying with those guys. Like they couldn't stop though. They couldn't stop this defensive line at all. So knowing that defense is that good, and it kind of goes back to one of the things I would say before the season, and he's just trying to say like, hey, no shade to the guys that they replaced, Keandre Coburn or Omoro Ojomo. I just don't think the bar was set that high where you can say, how do these guys come in and how do these guys fill in? Like, I think we've been able to see those guys have come in and filled in and done really, really good. I got to focus on Jason. What are you doing, Catch?
Don't worry about me.
I keep wondering, like, what are you doing over there?
You think you are on tilt because of the press box? Don't get me started on rivals.com tonight. Okay.
Fair enough. I'm gonna look at Jason.
I'm listening to you, I'm multitasking because I'm literally like ready to jump in and mention two things that I mentioned to Jason earlier because I wanted to get your thoughts on them. So trust me, I'm here.
No, it's okay. I just see you go like this the whole time. I'm like, what is he? It's like, what's going on? That's okay.
I was 2 seconds away from post. I literally hit post thread with my post-game article, and it all disappeared. So I'm rewriting the thing that I spent the entire fourth quarter putting together.
Pretty horrible. All right, go ahead and do your thing. I'll just block you out. So
I'm almost done. So do your thing.
No. I'm gonna put this over here. I get easily distracted sometimes. There you go. So Jason.
Yeah, Anwar, what's up, bud?
So the other thing
Anwar.
What's going to happen is that your freaking house phone will ring now, Jason. That's the only thing.
Hey, my dogs aren't barking. Like, leave me alone. It could be worse.
So so the defense showing up, this the way they did, I think that also was impressive. For me, the other portion of it. Quinn, come back, plays a pretty good game, still doesn't throw an interception, really good and really efficient as far as, distributed. They didn't ask him to do a ton of things, out of pocket, but when he did throw the ball, he had some really nice throws. I was just some really impressive throws where only his guys can get it. To Javen Sanders throw, comes to mind. And, I thought Quinn from that standpoint was just really, really solid. The running game was really good. So really impressed with that. But I think there's another part of me, and I kind of said this on a couple of my shows last week. Well, hell, it may have been yesterday when I come to think about it, because it was I was on air yesterday as well. And one of the things I'm writing about for tomorrow is, I feel like we'll know more about this Texas team after this upcoming weekend, next weekend against Kansas. And I think the one thing that Texas has been really fortunate about is that they've played some, Jalen Monroe might be the best quarterback that they played, and we don't know how good he really is at this moment. So you look at a JT Daniels, who, we don't think he is what he is. I mean, USF beat Rice today. A shout out to my Bulls. Jalen Monroe is probably good, maybe. I don't know how good he really is. They play a backup quarterback last week. They play a backup quarterback this week. So Jalen Downs will come in. The Kansas offense will come in. And so I think we'll have a better idea once they face a team that's got a better offense, a decent defense. Like that, to me, in the weird way, is like that's where the game I'm looking for. So I'm celebrating, for Texas and their win, and that's great for the fans tonight. But I'm also kind of bookmarking that, I feel like the big test comes, 7 days from now.
That's a good point. In the next 2 weeks, I mean, the level of competition is going to go. I mean, Bama's Bama, of course, but in terms of quarterback play, Jalen Daniels will test them. Oklahoma will test them too. They didn't look like world beaters today, but that's a good Oklahoma team when they're on their game. They got a nice win against, I think Cincy was undefeated going into today, weren't they?
No, they lost to Miami of Ohio last week.
Okay. I'm with you, Almar, man. Kind of on your takeaways. Quinn Ewers bounce back game. I said it. I think you were probably talking to Sark at the time, but like to me, if he plays like he did tonight, Texas isn't losing the game the rest of this year.
Yeah,
not in the regular season.
Mm-hmm.
And that defensive front, that defensive line. I mean, again, I'll eat my words because all preseason we were hearing about how good they were, and I was like, yeah, we've heard that before. I've got to see it before I'm ready to buy in, and I am officially. I mean, I have been for several weeks. I am fully bought in. That defensive front.
Yeah.
Those guys that they're replacing, Morrow, Jomo, and Coburn, those are guys that are in the NFL now. Sweat, and Byron Murphy, they're playing at a much higher level than those guys are that they're replaced. So, kudos to those guys, and then the depth that they just keep.
And by the way, and Vernon Broughton, at one point, you looked at him, you're like, holy crap, like this guy's unstoppable for a period of time. We very rarely saw the two guys that went into the NFL, Jason, kind of had those kind of stretches of domination, just to kind of piggyback.
Yeah, and I mean, kudos to. I mean, some of that is just natural growth as guys get older in the program. But you got to give some credit to Bo Davis too. I mean, those are guys under his watch, and whatever he's doing in developing those guys sure seems to be working.
Anwar, couple of things I wanted to throw your way. We've kind of talked them. I think we're kind of talking about it now, but I don't think it's insignificant. 1 week after they were in a 10-10 game going to the fourth quarter against Wyoming, Texas playing to its standard or to a version of its standard and not down to a Baylor standard where, suddenly it's a 17-17 game, late third quarter. They put this team away early, and I think that's a really good development for this team to play an outmatched opponent and then to get out of here, Jason. You're good.
I've drank 3 cups of these iced tea tonight, so do
your thing. We're good. You hung out later than normal.
We'll see.
But Anwar, them playing to a higher standard and not getting sucked down to Baylor's level, that's a step of progress for this team, and it's something that they're going to have to do more of this season. So I didn't think that was one of the things that I thought about throughout the game. B, don't look now, but the Longhorns have now won 4 straight road games. So they're actually their best 2 games that they've played so far this season are both of the 2 true road games. So some little things that this program and team are doing that they haven't consistently done on the whole over the course of the first 2+ seasons. Really positive developments, though, because if Texas plays this well on the road all season long, like they're very possibly going to run the table and win all their regular season games.
100% with you, to your point, Catch, because, the good part is if you talk about like playing to your level of the competition, the great part going forward is Texas doesn't have a Wyoming or a Rice on the schedule going forward. So to your point, you'll never have to worry about Texas playing to the level of their competition going forward, because everybody's going to be somebody that they're going to look at and say, we got to be on our A game to go ahead and beat that team. Like the motivational speeches will be a lot easier going forward to say, you got Kansas this week, you got Oklahoma this week, coming out the bye, like all that, as opposed to, hey man, got to take Rice serious. Like, it's like, do we, coach? Like, I don't know. It's so I think that is a really, a good part, for them. That, like, again, and get that monkey off their back as far as the road thing is concerned. Like you said, they're going to have to go on there and get some wins. And, TCU comes to mind in the second half of the season. Iowa State comes to mind in the second half of the season. And then, like you said, not sucking them down and sucking you down. Like, it would have been very easily. And again, this is a game that in previous years, Texas is in life or death, kind of what we saw last week, right? You're just like, what in the hell is going on right now? That's kind of what they're used to. And I tweeted out a picture, started the fourth quarter, Baylor fans were out. they were, and man, that time to get on the road. This thing is not going to turn around. It was over, So it did check that box, for me. But it also goes hand in hand with Quinn as well. Catch when Quinn's best games have been on the road as well, this season. So when Jason said it, when Quinn is playing like this, nobody can beat this team, because this defense is awesome at this moment. It is finding ways. They're coming in waves and droves, and no matter who's in, there may be a play here or there, but you don't see a breakdown. So the defense is going to keep you in games. And if Quinn is accurate the way he is, making the throws the way he is, what does his QBR end up being for the night, Catch? What is
199.6 from an efficiency standpoint? It's one of the best games of his career.
I mean, that's got to be. Yeah, I was going to say I don't know what his high is, but that's got to be top 3 easily. As far as maybe top 2, I'm afraid to open up another window, because God forbid I do anything with this internet. I'm just leaving everything the way it is. So that's why I can't go and look it up. But that kind of stands out as well, Catch. Yes, I agree with you.
Game balls, Ewers, Sanders. This might have been Jatavion Sanders' best game of his career. Now, he only catches 5 passes. So, it's not the most catches he's ever made, but I thought he made a great adjustment on the Xavier Worthy deep ball. That was not – Worthy doesn't get off a great throw there, but Sanders makes a great adjustment on the ball to make the catch. The one-handed catch he makes down the seam from Ewers was so good. He could have had 200 tonight if the Longhorns really wanted there. Jonathan Brooks, I mentioned this right off the top. This is kind of on where my kind of like the story of the game once you get beyond Texas wins and they beat Baylor and it's the last time they ever played. And, oh, by the way, Quinn was really good. But Monday, Steve Sarkisian called C.J. Baxter his lead back. And spoke about Jonathan Brooks in the context of, hey, he took advantage of an opportunity. Lead back goes down. Someone has to step up. Good on him. Tonight, another 100-yard game, 2 in a row. He was really good as a receiver. That 18-yard catch is so funny because his season is kind of, for some people, been remembered for the drops. Oh, by the way, no drops tonight by anybody on the Texas team.
A lot of drops on the Baylor team. My God.
They came into the game with the same number of drops as Texas.
Well, they have taken the lead, baby.
Well done, Bears.
Like, we're gonna win.
Well done.
We're going to take this going away. We're going to beat Texas in one category tonight.
But Brooks has a pretty sensational game. And now look, OU's just a couple of weeks away. And I don't think Steve Sarkisian thought in August that if both of his backs are healthy, that Jonathan Brooks would be his lead back. But tonight, He had 13 carries midway through the third quarter while Baxter had 4. He finishes with 18. Baxter finishes with 6. Jonathan Brooks, at least for the short term, for now, until CJ Baxter can rip it from him, he's your primary running back right now. And when they're if they're in a competitive game next week against Kansas, like right now, Brooks is on a roll, and like you got to respect the hot streak. And I think he's your starting running back right now by enough of a distance that it should at least probably be 2 carries for every one. Maybe 3 to 1 is too much once Baxter really gets situated. But 2 to 1, yeah, I think right now Brooks kind of deserves that. And I thought he needed tonight, and he got it. And I think he gets to reap the rewards for that going into the middle of this season. He's positioned himself as the guy, I think, in the running game. And if they don't go to him, I'll be asking some questions given how well he's played the last 2 weeks.
I think that's a really good observation. And Catch, if you take me back and help me remember from a recruiting standpoint, like Jonathan Brooks, like when Texas offers, wasn't he committed to Houston Baptist at the time?
That may have been like his only offer. He did not have a lot of offers.
Yeah, I remember there being, I think, a little bit of a what in the hell did Stan Drayton do when he offered a guy that his other offer was Houston Baptist? And then Jonathan Brooks has a really good senior year. But then he comes, Jonathan Brooks sits here and it's like, oh, you got Bijan, you got Roshan, you ain't playing. And so and I think, Catch, what we've seen now is that thing we've heard all of last year, and people tell us in the offseason, like, when Jonathan Brooks touches the ball in practice, he's really, really good. But we never saw it in a game. And so this is like the first times we're really having the opportunity to see it during the game. And then we heard it during the offseason as well. Like, hey, Jonathan Brooks is really good. He's always been really effective. You're like, all right, we'll see. Again, we finally had a chance to see it. And of course, it goes into the season with CJ Baxter being the number 1 guy. And, now all of a sudden, Sarkisian can look and say, you know what? This guy's really effective. Like in game, he's doing the things that we need him to do, that we want him to do. So it's from a cool story of a guy that kind of has been fighting his way and clawing his way to the top, getting knocked down, got knocked out in the beginning of the season, and then taking advantage of the opportunities. Yeah, if there was a game ball to hand out, he definitely deserves it. Just battling and battling alone and not giving up, that's pretty damn impressive.
Yeah, and again, the timing is everything. Oklahoma is right around the corner. You don't want to be experimenting in that game. CJ Baxter, if Sark wants that guy to be the starter at some point this season, okay, I guess, but not now and not for the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And if Baxter starts to get a little bit of a hot hand, okay, but boy, Jonathan Brooks is playing really – Jonathan Brooks isn't making mistakes. He's not fumbling. He's got the higher yards per carry. He can block. He's just doing everything right. I think he's the biggest winner on the team tonight because I think everything else plays out like you thought it would. There aren't really any battles taking place on this team on the depth chart, kind of week in and week out. That's maybe the backup quarterback job, which we really, Malik plays tonight. You'd like to have seen him get in one series earlier, maybe get some throws in. But there just aren't a lot of battles. That is a battle. And I think it goes on all season long. But I think if you're Sark, Brooks got to be your guy for the next couple of weeks because, quite frankly, he's earned that right. You're not giving him anything. He's taken the mantle.
Yeah, no, I definitely like him 100% agree. Yeah, I'm trying to think. I can't think. There are no other position battles. There's rotations, like especially on defense, there's a lot of rotation.
It feels like the starting corner, like Gavin Holmes and Malik Muhammad aren't taking snaps away from Ryan Watts or Terrence Brooks. By the way, Terrence Brooks had a really quiet game, not in a bad way. Like Baylor just didn't want any part of him tonight. I don't remember seeing Terrence Brooks. And I did notice as soon as Malik Muhammad came in, Baylor, they targeted him like 10 times in a row. And then they threw it once on Gavin Holmes' side of the field. I was like, oh, hey, Gavin Holmes. Yeah. But so you're right. Like, it's not like on defense we're seeing a whole lot of that.
Yeah. So what are we doing? Are we doing game balls? Are we still doing game balls?
Yeah, I gave out a few game balls. I gave one to Ewers and Sanders. Okay.
So, I mean, my game balls, the defensive, those guys in interior, Murphy, Sweat, and hell, I would even give one to Broughton as well. But for sure, Murphy and Sweat, I would give those guys that again dominant performance. These are the performances that when you put on the scouts will look at these and say, yes, tell me more. And I'll tell you honestly, this is the kind of thing that for a guy like Byron Murphy, who might be a little shorter, like T'Vondre Sweat, a team's going to look at him and say, my God, I need that. I absolutely knew that. Byron Murphy might be a little bit shorter, maybe have a little bit shorter of a wingspan. This is an effectiveness, to show like, hey, this is what you can do. So them putting that thing on tape was absolutely impressive. And I know this guy's making this thing look so routine, and it's not. But Jalen Ford with another interception, I mean,
that's 8 interceptions in his last 11 games.
This is not. We know football. This is not what linebackers do. Okay, like that. The defensive backs on this team aren't doing this catch. Like, and it's like we take it for granted sometimes. We're like, oh, there's Jalen Ford with another interception. And like, we should be like, damn it, man, there's Jalen Ford with another freaking interception. Like, I have to give him a game ball. Jalen Ford catch is gotten to the point where he's so good that you almost don't get impressed with what he does, which is it was a huge compliment, right? But you're almost kind of at the point where you're like, oh, this Jalen Ford made a tackle. Oh, this Jalen Ford with another interception. Like, all right, who's coming back on offense and taking the stops and say, damn, Jalen Ford is playing at a high level.
I think one of my sections tomorrow in my 10 thoughts from the weekend will probably center on Jalen. I wrote about this earlier in the year, but now we're a third of the way through the season. Jalen Ford is entering. He's not Derek Johnson, and he's never going to be Derek Johnson. But man, we start talking about linebackers for Texas in this last generation. A generation is 33 years. I think the textbook definition of a generation. I mean, if we're talking about linebacker play over the course of the last 33 years, he might be number 2. I mean, it's like a conversation of Jordan Hicks, who only had one great year. Yeah. Malik Jefferson only had one great year.
Yeah.
Keenan Robinson is a guy that, I think would be up there. But, boy, we're at a point now where Jalen Ford legitimately is maybe the second best linebacker over the course of the last generation of football and years. Amazing. He's amazing. Number 2, this is for you. I told Jason this earlier, or maybe I told Chad, but this is really for you.
Okay.
You and I had a conversation months ago about Byron Murphy. By the way, excellent War Room note on Byron Murphy this week. You noted in the War Room, Byron Murphy kind of a badass this week in practice, and he was a badass. I mean, he played tonight like a guy that was great in practice this week. It's probably June or July, and the conversation of Byron Murphy turning pro early came up. And I was like, get the fuck out of here. That dude hasn't so much as impressed me yet through his sophomore season in a way where I'm convinced he's definitely going to play in the NFL, let alone after this season, he's going to go pro. I mean, come on. Tonight is the first time, and I thought of you when I thought about this, because we argued about this. You were higher on Murphy than I was. And I was like, come on, it's a little ridiculous to talk about him turning pro. Tonight, for the first time, I was like, God, he might turn pro after this season. His stock, he's always going to be the size that he always is. So he's never going to get bigger. I don't know that ever coming back for another year helps him out. So this he legitimately could be a guy that goes pro after this season is over. First time I've ever thought that with my eyeballs. And yet I can remember you and I having this conversation and you being a little more bullish on the idea of that than me. And here we are tonight. He looked like an NFL player.
He did, Catch. And can I give you a request for your 10 thoughts of the weekend?
Sure.
At you just to contemplate it. And if you don't, maybe I'll just talk about it on my show next week. But either way, but Byron Murphy, I've been thinking about this, and Byron Murphy epitomizes this really interesting aspect. Because 100% correct. Yes, I was definitely strong based off the things I was hearing about, Murphy and how well he was doing in practice and just kind of accumulation of things. And so I kind of was he was like my breakout candidate, I believe, for this upcoming year. And I've been pretty good with my breakout candidates. I feel really good. I feel like I've been so good at my breakout candidates. I'm scared to do it, continue doing it, because I feel like at some point.
Don't be scared.
Well, I'm just saying, like, at some point I'm gonna say, man, someone's gonna be like, your breakout candidates suck. But I've been really good with my like Jalen Ford was like breakout candidate last year. Byron Murphy was like breakout candidate, this year. I'd have to go through my list of my preseason stuff. So, but Catch, since I've been here, so you're talking 2014. What I've seen that's really interesting is the coach who got here spent the majority of the time basically saying the guys I inherited suck, and I got to find ways to get in my guys in order to make this program better, because these guys are soft, these guys are pansies, these are guys are whatever. And it's interesting, Catch, because I would be curious if you could look at the guys that Sark inherited, the Herman guys that they have taken up to the next level. Because Byron Murphy has been a guy that was just like, well,
the whole defense is Herman guys.
Yeah.
But they've developed Herman guys. So, speaking of things that we talk about in the offseason and like become talking points, like who gets credit? Like the guy that recruits them. Everybody claims that when they're good, you claim them any way that you can.
Yes.
But you got to give Bo Davis credit for the development of Tavondre Sweat and the development of Byron Murphy. Did he recruit those guys? No. But have they gotten in significantly better under his tutelage? Absolutely. No doubt about it.
Look at, he puts in the David Benda. We talked about him before the season, and you thought to yourself, man, if Benda's out there, this team's in trouble.
Yeah,
right?
Man.
And David Benda's pretty damn efficient at this moment. He's out there. You don't look like liability. You think to yourself, okay, pretty darn good. And again, like there's been guys.
Right.
You said what?
100%.
Yeah, and so what's impressive, I think, to me, Catch, is that, again, I just know from a narrative standpoint, to your point, the guys who usually do well are the ones they claim, and the guys who don't are the ones that you say, like, just like he's one of their guys. And they always try to have it both ways. And this season, there are Herman guys that are here that they've made into better players. Jaron Thompson is a guy they've made into a better player. Jade Barron. I mean, we had a conversation just about a year or so ago when we talked about Jade and NIL and all that other type of stuff. Was he going to leave? And there were some thoughts, like, is this guy even worth it from an NIL perspective? Like, as far as paying him something like that, and now you're like, every penny, then some and more. Like, look how good he's become. I know it's just a thought process. And to think about it, I'm not going to talk about it maybe next year, maybe next week, but it's just a really fascinating thing that when you talk about Murphy, I start thinking about the guys they inherited and that they've actually made into better players as opposed to running off.
Yeah. I mean, and look, their hit rate on guys they didn't run off is really high because it's not like they didn't run off a bunch of dudes. Like, they looked at this roster and they didn't love everything about it. However, boy, man, you look at that defense. I mean, look, Sorrell, Sweat, Murphy, Broughton, Collins, who's about the only defensive lineman actually. Broughton's kind of past Collins on the totem pole for me.
Yeah.
We'll include Collins to be nice. That's 5. Ford, Benda. And understand this about David Benda. I think he played in 6 games last year. Like, he was a healthy scratch. Texas wasn't playing him because Texas didn't think he was good.
Yeah.
And how do I know that? They didn't play him. Not even on special teams. So he was one of these guys that didn't have a role last year. And so, seeing him in the starting defense in the spring and going into the fall, I'm like, they got to replace that dude. That he's made the progress that he's made, you give him a lot of credit. By the way, we're at 7. I'm still counting. But you give him a lot of credit because he is, I would guess, when Alex puts out his updated production chart next week, I think he'll probably still be number 1. If not, he'll be 2. Maybe Jalen Ford is creeped ahead of him because he'll get points for the interception and the tackle for loss that he had. But David Benda has he's shoved a crap sandwich down my throat every bit as much as Texas did to Baylor tonight. So kudos to David Benda. I always root for guys' success. I will never be upset if I think a guy's not good and then he turns out to be much better than that. Boy, if there's ever anything to be wrong about, it's wrong about somebody being much better than they are. It's a great thing to be wrong about. Jade Barron is 8. Jaron Thompson is 9. That's probably where I would stop, but that's 9. That's 9 starters / major contributors who are Tom Herman recruits that they've just done a really good job of coaching up. We have no idea whether Tom Herman would have and his defensive coaches would have done the same thing. So they get credit for recruiting. Matter of fact, Byron Murphy, the last recruit that Tom Herman landed before he got fired, about 6 days, 7 days, it was right, maybe 10 days. It was in at least the middle of December when he committed to Herman. Herman gets fired. The last Herman recruit was this kind of under the radar 3-star undersized defensive tackle. And they didn't kick him to the curb. They could have. They could have been like, oh, we're going to reevaluate all the commitments and we don't want you. But they kept him and they've developed the hell out of him.
Yeah.
And I think the staff deserves a lot of credit. I think Jeff Choate deserves credit for David Benda. I think Bo Davis deserves credit for that, most of that whole defensive line. There's a lot of good to be happy about right now. As a supporter of the Texas football program, this coaching staff is doing a really good job. We know they can recruit, but we know that Bo Davis probably needs to do a better job of recruiting.
Yeah.
But hey, when you develop that well, then you can peacock a little bit, and you don't necessarily need 5-star defensive tackles if you turn your 3 stars and 4 stars into NFL players, and they are unquestionably doing that right now.
And allow me on the flip side, I know we focused in on defense, but allow me to kind of give you your flowers as you gave me the flowers for Murphy. One guy that you were high about on the offensive side that I thought you were using way too many rogue products on was Christian Jones. And that was, for me, when you say, I think this guy's a future NFL player, I'm like, Catch, you are out of your freaking mind.
I said that when he was like coming off of his bad year at left tackle.
Yes. And I was like, you are out of your freaking mind. That guy ain't going pro. You know that commercial where they say a lot of people are going pro with things other than sports? I'm like, he's the poster boy for that commercial. He's going pro in things other than sports. And Christian Jones is the guy that you look at now and you're like, oh, that's an NFL player. Like it is. And I know a lot of your focus will maybe be on defense. If you just choose to write it, it's cool if you don't. But for your flowers, if you're going to give me the flowers for the Byron Murphy thing, the Christian Jones observation ends up being one of those, like, kudos to him. Because that's another guy who's left for dead. Like that's another guy that you just thought to yourself, man, not a chance. And when he decided to come back for his 6th season, guys who come back for their 6 seasons, Catch, are usually coming back because they're not good enough to go pro. That's all. That's what that boils down to.
And that's why he came back.
Correct. And like I love it when these guys, I love it when reporters interview guys who are like, so you thought about going pro, what made you come back? And they're like, oh, I just wanted to come back and win. Like, okay, no, you didn't. You came back because you realized that you might be like 5th to 6th round and potentially undrafted. And you're like, let me see if I can increase my stock. Like, that's what you came back for. And Christian Jones, when he was coming back, I just thought, man, you're wasting a lot of time as far as starting your life. I mean, you want to play football, I guess, sure, but you can start. Christian Jones, the guy that he goes to school. So anyway, I just want to make sure I acknowledge you for that observation.
It's nothing but hugs here on the Adam Loewy, the Loewy Law Firm. Let's give Adam Loewy some flowers.
Our main man, Adam Loewy.
He has been the sponsor of this postgame show at times when we didn't give out a lot of flowers.
Adam has been through 3, 5, and 7 seasons, if I'm correct.
And I love that every time he's like, let's run it back. Let's run it back. Tonight, Adam, like there's almost 700 watching right now. I'm just going to say this. Somebody messes you up. They rear end you. I don't know. Somehow you are harmed by somebody or something else. You need to contact Adam Loewy, the future Austin, the mayor of Austin, in like 5 years or less. But before he becomes the mayor, let him get you the cash and the settlement and the money that you deserve. Nobody in Austin's doing it better. He's every like week he'll post on Twitter like $1 million settlement. He's just constantly he's able to pay to be the postgame show on the regular because he ain't hurting. He ain't hurting because his people win. So let Adam Loewy win for you. Just wanted to give him some flowers while we're doing flowers.
Yeah, no, it's really good. And any
this is good.
What's that?
South End Zone Queen says Baylor quarterback in line need to contact Adam Loewy. Yes, they do.
Somebody, I know, Catch, you're not going to. I know you and I disagreed on this. Man, I think Dave Aranda's cooked, man. I know you say he's not going to be in a hot seat, but and maybe he's not. This dude has formed a team, and I know Texas did their thing. I'm not taking anything away from Texas. Man, that guy's cooked. That guy's a dead man walking, Catch.
He does not know what he's doing right now.
How did he not run a 3.35, Catch?
Boy, I'm so glad you brought that up. It's coaching malpractice.
Yeah.
He showed up tonight with a bad look. If Baylor shows up tonight and they're ranked 30th in the country in defense. And they've been generally balling on that side of the – and it's like he wants to do his thing, and he thinks they're really good. So what – okay. But his defense has been bad.
Correct.
And he showed up tonight, and rather than using the thing that was he's got 2+ seasons of game film that shows, hey, man, if Sark's got kryptonite, if Ewers has kryptonite, it's the 3-3-5. And, oh, by the way, it was 10-10 last week with Wyoming. That he showed up today, and the very first thing I did was like, all right, well, how many down? Oh, he's got 4 to 0.
Yes.
He's playing with 4, and he's doing his thing. And it should have been, if you wanted to nitpick Texas at all, they should have scored 50 tonight. I mean, they get down to the 3 and not being able to punch it in from the 3 and then missing the field goal. You know, they should have had 40, could have had 45. If they really wanted to push it, they could have hit 50. That defense was trash tonight.
Hot garbage, dog.
And
hot garbage.
And look, I defend Aranda all the time because I really believe the 2021 job that he did with that Baylor team that was predicted to be last was maybe the best coaching job I've ever seen in the Big 12. Mm-hmm. I am basically giving it to and those weren't his players. I'm basically at this point, like, got to give the players all the credit. And that includes like a guy like Jerry Bohannon, who they ran out of town. Mm-hmm. They could have used Jerry Bohannon tonight. Like, I don't know what he does good. I don't want to talk about the Bears anymore because there's really no real reason for us to talk about the Bears. They're in the rearview mirror, but holy shit, you got to do a better job than Dave Aranda did tonight. And it's coaching malpractice that he didn't do some 3-3.
Hold on. Aranda just walked in, Catch. He said he wanted to talk to you.
That's fine. Oh, no.
There you go. He said he wanted to go ahead
Coach,
and ask him the questions that you want to ask.
While I have you, by the way, before I say this, I thought 2021, great coaching job. But, Coach, Wyoming last week, there was a 10-10 game in the fourth quarter. And, Coach, you ran that trash-ass 4-man line out there. Wasn't there any point during the game when you were like, well, it's 21-3. Maybe I should go with try the defense that Wyoming and everybody else coach. You know you're on the hot seat, right? You know you're on the hot seat. I see Baylor people on Twitter all day. Some of them were begging for Texas to throttle you tonight because they're tired of it. And on a night when Texas filled up half the damn stadium, you roll out that defense that Texas State tore up. I don't get it. Okay, I'll shut up. I know, Coach. I talked a lot. Have at it. Why?
Well, because quite honest with you, I don't know if I really like this place. I feel like I don't want to live here anymore. So I've just decided that the easiest thing to do is not do anything. I mean, my only question to you is that did you see us lose against Texas State?
I did.
Oh. Well, what else do you need to know, sir?
Are you trying to lose your job?
Listen.
By the way, it looks like you have more hair on our channel. Are you letting your hair grow out?
Listen. I am letting my hair grow out because I don't care. You don't understand. I don't care anymore. We're becoming an afterthought. TCU has done much better than us. Texas is leaving. Texas Tech kind of had me depressed, but I feel a little bit better after today. I feel like Joe McGuire is really not that good. So I feel good a little bit better. But SMU has gotten a lot better than us. I mean, quite honest with you, I just don't have. Didn't you hear me a couple of weeks ago when I said, "Hey, these guys lack enthusiasm, and I need to ask my coaches about it"? But I wasn't enthusiastic enough to ask them. So I don't know. I'm just here. To be quite honest with you. But the good part is maybe Chip and Johanna come pretty soon. Okay, that's it,
Coach. Thank you. I didn't think you did a good job tonight, but I have nothing but professional respect for the fact that you came on the show today and you heard us talking about you. You came on. Thank you. Have a good rest of the season. Good luck with those quarterbacks.
Okay, and just for everyone out there, sick them.
There you go. Ladies and gentlemen, first time since we've been doing the postgame show, we had a head coach from one of the teams join the show to take questions. Look, Anwar, welcome back. I respect the fact that he took time.
It was really good. It's a really good interview. I mean, like it is. I think that's the warmness that you get here. You know, the warmness that you get here at Baylor for coaches to come on our show. It shows how much OB Live is growing. I mean, it shows. I mean, like the channel, subscribe, like the video, subscribe to the channel, share it with everybody. I'm pretty sure this probably be on Sports Center.
Hardcore interviews like that with only the best guests.
Yeah,
that's what you get here on Orangebloods Live.
Yeah, I mean, yes. So he didn't. Too bad he left. You know, Paulie has to jump into Brazos and hope no one saves him. But you know, speaking of Brazos, he is drowning. So yes. Anyway, thank you, Coach Aranda.
Brazos.
There you go. Thank you, Brazos.
I know there's an O in there.
Okay,
but Brazos.
I did go to a Buc-ee's. I haven't had a drink, by the way. What I'm drunk. I'm at my job. What are you saying? I'm at my job. And by the way, have you watched any of my shows? This is kind of who I am. I'm literally, it's 11:30 and I got to drive 90 minutes back home and I'm at my job. If I'm a lot of things, drunk is not that. And I got to Gollum do it in the morning.
Hey,
So,
JB,
yeah.
it's hard work, man. But somebody's got to do it. It might as well be us.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, Aranda didn't want to do that 365 Baylor thing.
Nah.
He knows that ultimately the media market, if he wants a post-coaching career in media, Austin's where it's at. Who knows? He could get a job with Sark as an analyst. He could get a job on Orangebloods Live. We're still working on our calendar and there's room. Believe me, I will remember that Dave Aranda did that with us tonight. And in the future, you know, nothing but love.
By the way, speaking of trash, I don't, someone gave me a stat, and where is it that let me see if someone sent me something that maybe it was on TV earlier today. It said since Joey McGuire declared that the Big 12 runs through Lubbock, Texas Tech is 4-5 in conference play.
Oh yeah, well then the rest of the Big 12 happened tonight, and Tech lost. Hey, K-State bounced back. Look, Texas is going to need Kansas State. If for any reason Texas drops a game this season, the crummy Big 12 will be a hard discussion for Texas to win.
Yeah.
I mean, Alabama winning today was really big for Texas.
Definitely.
Kansas State won. Kansas won. Good day for the state of Kansas. You know what? Look, like a little look ahead, and look, we can start to wrap things up here.
Yeah.
I would just say this: Kansas next week is, in a lot of ways, will be maybe the toughest challenge that Texas has had this season, and that Kansas got a quarterback now.
He's better than both of us.
This game feeling like they have the best quarterback. I'm not saying that. I would rank Quinn Ewers ahead of Jalen Daniels at this point based on what I've seen this season. But Daniels is a baller. And Daniels has won at DKR before. So they will come in confident. They will come in feeling better about their offense than anybody that Texas has played this season. That could end up being a more interesting game than Oklahoma when it's all said and done, because I really think Texas is going to throttle Oklahoma. But we have plenty of time for that conversation. Why don't we do this? Onward.
By the way, just kind of, I mean, I don't know if Jalen Daniels was like 100% last year when he played against them, played against Texas. So, I 100%, I think Milroe's better than, I think Jalen Daniels better than Milroe.
By a lot.
Yes. No. So if we did a re-ranking of ranking classifications, he would be much higher. So I definitely, and then the offense is good. The defense, they play good on all sides of the ball. And to your point, they're not going to come in here thinking to themselves like, well, how are we going to compete against Texas? They're going to say we're 4-0 when you beat them 2 years ago. We are just as good. But guess what? We'll do it a third time. By the
way, you know how I tried to push Deuce Vaughn into the portal?
Yeah, K-State people hated you.
I feel that way about Daniels.
Yeah.
I think that dude needs to train. If that dude was on Alabama,
oh God,
their whole outlook changes.
Yeah, everything. Yes.
I mean, I would be illegally recruiting that guy right now if I was a college head coach. If I was at any school in the country that needs a quarterback next year, I've got my NIL people talking to his parents. I'm dirty. I'd be dirtier than Aranda in our interview just then. I'd be dirty trying to get that dude to come in through the portal.
100%. It's a program changer. It's a freaking program changer. And there's not everyone can do that. So 100%. He's that good.
All right. You got any parting shots other than safe travels and
no. I think the final parting shot for me is that hey, Texas is 4-0. I mean, that's a good thing. It's a good thing for Longhorn fans, and again, who have been suffering since I got here. So I've been suffering for a long period of time. The 4-0. I feel like the things that I've heard, all the what is the word I'm looking for? They set their goals before the season, and then they start settling for things afterwards. So the all our goals are still in front of us usually goes out by non-conference games. Then because then it's like all our goals first is national championship. Then it's all our goals are still in front of us because of a loss, and then you go to
players have a team meeting.
There's always a team meeting. Yes, it's the bingo card, right? There's always a team meeting. And then maybe a readjustment. Then they still the November of trying to get seniors to a bowl game. That's usually the last on your bingo card to know the season has been a failure. And then you just go, and then your optimism when you go into bowl preparations is that, hey, guys are more unified. Some of the cancer guys left, and and guys are feeling really good about themselves. And then a loss happens or something like that. So I'm glad we're not dealing with anything to that effect. And to his point, El Presidente, since early this year, has been a 12-0 guy. He is 8 wins away from being correct. He called his shot in the spring, and he stayed on his porch. He would get on shows with you, Catch, and you would tell him he's on crack. I got people saying 12-0. What the hell? He's 8 wins away from being correct.
Okay, well, just let's slow down.
He's never going to slow down.
We're a third of the way through, but hey, El Presidente, so far you're more right than I am, because I definitely had the Longhorns with an L through the first 4 games of the season. Take a bow. Take a bow, El Presidente. Can't say anything other than you look like a smart man at this point. Let's wrap this thing up, guys. Hit that like button. I mean, if we didn't earn a like, Anwar sweating in the press box. He got an interview with Aranda post game. He turned Aranda into, I think Aranda's still hanging out.
He's hanging out. He just, sometimes he just I think he just wants to maybe talk to me off the record.
Or he may have something to say to us just in general.
Yeah.
I can understand if he does.
Thank God our last game we're covering in Baylor, because I would probably not be allowed back after that one.
Adios, Coach, and adios, Baylor. Let me read to you, Anwar, real quick. This will be my parting shot.
Okay.
People on Orangebloods liked it. You ready?
Yes.
Have a taste of that, Bears. Marinate on it. Let it sink in really good. Forever. In the final game of this series, the Longhorns shoved a crap sandwich down Baylor's throat in such a way that it feels befitting of this series, which Texas has owned throughout the last century plus. Enjoy that, people that supported Art Briles. From a Texas perspective, the thing that matters is they didn't play around with a poor team on the road. The Longhorns handled its business in a way befitting of a team ranked third in the country. The Longhorns played to a standard, and it wasn't a Baylor standard. That's not insignificant. Also, don't look now. The Longhorns have won 4 straight games on the road. That's what matters most, not the end of this rivalry. And that's just the way it should be. Texas is back to prominence. Baylor is back to not mattering at all. Have some of that indeed. For Anwar Richardson in Waco, for Jason, who was here earlier, for Blake, it's almost midnight. He's still doing the producing thing and holding it down. And for me, Jeff Ketchum, for all of you that participated in the watch-along brought to you by Pine House and in the Loewy Law Firm postgame show, we love you. We appreciate you. Thank you for spending time with us tonight. We will see you on Monday. Monday Overreactions.
Oh, yeah.
Me and Anwar early on the old-fashioned. You guys have a safe night, a good night, a fun night. Go get some if you can. We'll talk to you later.